Imagine this. You're in Dhaka, Bangladesh. It's a hot summer night. The streets are bustling with life. Suddenly, a group of men in plain clothes forces your neighbor into an unmarked van. They speed off into the darkness. Your neighbor is never seen again. This is not a scene from a movie. This is the reality for many Bangladeshis who have allegedly been subjected to enforced disappearances. These disappearances are carried out in secrecy, often in the dead of night. The victims are often political opponents, activists, or critics of the government. Their families are left with no answers, no closure, and no justice. These incidents are deeply troubling. They point to a sinister truth that lurks beneath the surface of Bangladesh's democracy: the existence of secret prisons. These clandestine detention centers are allegedly run by the government, operating outside the bounds of law. They are places where people are held without trial, tortured, and sometimes even killed. Sheikh Hasina Wazed, the current Prime Minister of Bangladesh, is a figure of immense power and controversy. Known as the Iron Lady, her rule has seen economic progress but also allegations of authoritarianism and human rights abuses. Critics accuse her government of enforced disappearances and silencing dissent. Human rights groups raise concerns about shrinking free speech and political opposition. Supporters see her as essential for stability, while critics see increasing authoritarianism. The allegations of secret prisons in Bangladesh are deeply concerning. These clandestine detention centers, allegedly run by the government, operate outside the purview of law. They are shrouded in secrecy, hidden from public scrutiny and international oversight. The Rapid Action Battalion, a paramilitary force often accused of human rights abuses, has been heavily implicated in these disappearances and the operation of these secret prisons. The Directorate General of Forces Intelligence, Bangladesh's primary military intelligence agency, has also been accused of running these clandestine detention facilities. Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and the United Nations have all documented cases of enforced disappearances, torture, and extrajudicial killings in Bangladesh. These organizations have called for independent investigations into these allegations and for the government to bring the perpetrators to justice. The existence of these secret prisons, if proven true, represents a fundamental violation of human rights and a grave threat to the rule of law in Bangladesh. Section 4. Voices from the Shadows. Families speak out. The families of the disappeared live in a constant state of anguish and uncertainty. They are haunted by the sudden and unexplained absence of their loved ones. Mothers weep for their sons, wives for their husbands, and children grow up without their fathers. These families often face intimidation and harassment when they try to seek justice for their missing loved ones. They are told to keep quiet, to move on, and to forget. But they refuse to be silenced. They continue to demand answers, to hold on to hope, and to fight for the truth. Their stories are heartbreaking testaments to the human cost of these enforced disappearances. They paint a picture of a society gripped by fear, where dissent is silenced, and where the government operates with impunity. Their voices deserve to be heard. Section 5. A nation divided: human rights versus political stability. The allegations of secret prisons and enforced disappearances have sparked a heated debate in Bangladesh. The government vehemently denies these accusations, dismissing them as baseless and politically motivated. They maintain that Bangladesh is a democracy that respects human rights and the rule of law. They argue that these allegations are part of a conspiracy to tarnish the country's image and to undermine the government's efforts to maintain stability and progress. They point to the country's economic growth and development as evidence of their successful governance. However, human rights groups and opposition parties remain unconvinced. They accuse the government of using the rhetoric of development and stability to mask its authoritarian tendencies and its crackdown on dissent. They argue that true progress cannot come at the expense of human rights and democratic freedoms. This debate highlights a fundamental tension in Bangladesh: the balance between security and liberty, between stability and freedom. Section 6. A call for justice. The world is watching. The international community has a moral obligation to address the human rights situation in Bangladesh. The allegations of secret prisons and enforced disappearances are simply too serious to ignore. The world is watching, and Bangladesh's government must be held accountable for its actions. Independent investigations into these allegations are crucial. The perpetrators of these crimes must be brought to justice, regardless of their position or power. The victims and their families deserve nothing less. The international community must exert pressure on Bangladesh to uphold its commitments to human rights and the rule of law. This includes supporting civil society organizations, protecting journalists and activists, and demanding transparency and accountability from the government. The fight for human rights is a universal one. It transcends borders, cultures, and ideologies. The people of Bangladesh deserve to live in a country where their rights are respected, their voices are heard, and their dignity is protected.